Hello everybody and welcome to another top 10 board gaming video. Today's topic is all about expansions, and as some of you may remember, I previously did a top 5 video on this, and so I'm really excited to both update the list with some new entries as well as simply have more on the list itself as well. Jumping right into it, when I talk about expansions and good expansions that I have on this list, I love expansions that are modular, have some sort of a new mechanic for the game, and or are fixing something that was fundamentally flawed in the original. There's a lot of expansions out there that end up just bloating out a game and adding more of the same stuff to it, and I really don't like most of those. So all of these games are going to be in the former categories that I mentioned previously. So getting right into it, you guys know that I love hearing from you. Please let me know any and all of your thoughts in the comments below, including sharing your own personal favorite expansions. But with that, we're going to go right into my number 10. At number 10, I've got Forsaken Lore for Eldritch Horror. Essentially, Forsaken Lore adds some more mechanics, namely the research mechanic, as well as some more bad guys that you end up having to fight. The research mechanic in particular is really fun because it builds on the lore that the rest of the game has. The Lovecraftian mythos is incredibly deep, and there's a lot of information with it. I love reading the books, and more importantly, I love seeing it expanded on in the game. But that said, it's so low on the list because it's a relatively minor thing, and it's something that not a lot of people are really going to care too much about. It's still a lot of fun, and it's mechanically something interesting. Forsaken Lore, my number 10. At number 9, I have The Gathering Storm for Race for the Galaxy. In this expansion, we see the addition of a bunch of new worlds, including new starter worlds. We also see drafting rules and goals. With the new starter worlds, you have a lot more replayability. With the goals, not only do you have a brand new mechanic to get victory points, and you can base your strategy off of attaining goals, but you also add a lot more replayability with that, along with all of the new worlds. There's a lot going on with it. It's a lot of fun, but mechanically speaking, it's relatively minor. Still a great add though. Gathering Storm, my number 9. At number 8, I have Scoundrels of Skull for Lords of Waterdeep. Scoundrels of Skull is a 2-part modular expansion that adds these massive modules along with individual mechanics within each one, including the corruption mechanic, which is one of my favorite things to see. You end up having a lot more endgame intrigue and strategy going on between these two modules, and it just makes the game, it just takes it to the next level essentially. That said, the base game by itself is totally fine, and you don't need the expansion, and so that's why it's lower on the list. But once you play with the expansion, you're really not going to want to go back. So with all of that, Scoundrels of Skullport is my number 8. At number 7, I have Cosmic Incursion for Cosmic Encounter. Incursion adds more alien powers, it adds a 6th player, and most importantly, it adds the Defender Rewards deck. The Defender Rewards deck includes things like kickers, along with very powerful artifacts, quakes, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's absolutely amazing. I really love it. The thing is that the additional aliens and the 6th player, I can kind of take or leave. I really don't care about that, and that's why it's so low on the list. But that Defender Rewards deck, it really makes this version of Cosmic Encounter more similar to the previous versions, where you have a lot more variety in terms of how you can play cards and when you can play them. So with that, Cosmic Incursion is my number 7. At number 6, I've got 1904 for the original Ticket to Ride. Essentially, 1904 fixes some major issues that the base game has, where you don't have a whole lot of tickets and the cards are ridiculously small. All that 1904 does is you get a lot more of the destination tickets, so you get a lot more variety in terms of what you can do, and you get regular sized cards instead of the really tiny itty bitty, not even Euro card sized cards. So it makes the game a whole lot easier to play, and it's one of those where I refuse to play Ticket to Ride without that expansion now. But it's so small and it does relatively little, so it's lower on the list. Either way, 1904 is my number 6. At number 5, I've got Powerup for King of Tokyo. The Powerup expansion not only adds a new monster, but it also adds the evolution decks. These are essentially key decks for the individual characters that give you special abilities. This is something that the base game is sorely lacking, where there is very little difference between the different monsters. And so Powerup actually adds that, so you've got variety of play, you've got much more replayability, and on top of that you have more variety of what you're able to do during gameplay. So it's absolutely amazing, and it's one of those where you're never going to want to play the base game by itself after you have played with this expansion. Powerup with King of Tokyo is my number 5. At number 4, I have Powering Up for Tesla vs. Edison. Powering Up adds a few fun new mechanics that really put the game more into its historical context than it originally was, with the addition of things like events that are actual events that occurred during this time period. It also adds new characters, namely women, to the game. You are also able to build a headquarters so that you can build it up and improve your economy in different ways and new ways. And most importantly, from my perspective, it adds a solo mode. This actually adds an AI that you can use to play the game by yourself, and so it's just absolutely amazing. It adds a ton of stuff, and I really enjoy it, and I truly appreciate it for this particular game. So with all that, Tesla vs. Edison Powering Up is my number 4. At number 3, I have Rise of the Empire for Star Wars Rebellion. All things considered, the base game for this is truly amazing. It's absolutely wonderful, but there are a few key aspects to it that are not as great as they could be, and Rise of the Empire really goes a long way to fixing those, namely things like the combat. You have a lot more ways that you can strategically mess with your opponent. You have a lot more ways that you can deal with tactics and things of that nature, and it just makes the game a lot more fun, a lot more strategic, and a lot more cutthroat, which is what the game should be. And it's absolutely amazing, wonderfully well done, and I truly love it. Star Wars Rebellion, Rise of the Empire is my number 3. At number 2, I have the Mother of Dragons expansion for A Game of Thrones. This expansion adds a lot that many people felt was missing from the original game. First and foremost, you have a board that represents the free cities of Essos. Secondly, you have not one but 2 new houses, namely you have House Aaron and you have House Targaryen, which was missing from the base game. And how can you have a Game of Thrones with no House Targaryen? It doesn't make any sense. In addition, similarly to Rise of the Empire for Rebellion, this went a long way to fixing how the combat works and how the support tokens work and all of that kind of thing. And it did a lot to really help with strategic decision making for players, and it's just another example of a wonderfully well done game. Plus, it adds the dragons. So what more can you ask for from an expansion? Mother of Dragons, my number 2. It feels like it's been forever since I've done this, but I'm really excited to say that I've got some honorable mentions for this particular list, and so I'll just run through them relatively quickly. First and foremost, we've got Merry Men for Sheriff of Nottingham. What this does is it really helps you go through and do the contraband smuggling, because it adds the Merry Men as characters and as cards that will give you specific powers. It's very modular. It's got a ton of different stuff to it. You add additional sheriffs, you've got additional abilities, all sorts of different stuff, but in my opinion, the base game by itself is good enough and it works really well, and so it's pretty good, but the fact that you're encouraged to do more contraband is really nice. Next up, we have Alchemists, the King's Golem. So in Alchemist, it's a worker placement game, and the King's Golem represents a new board and a new goal that you're trying to achieve, where you're trying to activate the golem and make it do your bidding, essentially. It acts as another way of getting points and prestige and all of the kind of stuff that you earn in the game. I like it mechanically because it's a new thing and it works on the same sort of logical progression that you have with Alchemists, but in my opinion, it's kind of unnecessary. It's really cool, it's very well done, it's a lot of fun, but the base game as it is great, and I don't particularly find this to be necessary. Next up, we have Dominion Intrigue. This represents essentially the only way that I'm willing to play Dominion. Now, Intrigue is relatively unique amongst expansions because not only is it an expansion, but it's a standalone expansion. This game contains everything you need to play it as a base game, but the thing is, it's much better in my opinion than the base game itself. It adds a lot more character interaction cards and all sorts of other different stuff like that, but that said, it's not on the list because I simply don't really like Dominion that much, and that's really what it boils down to. Last but not least, we have Kingsburg, and by extension to Forge a Realm, its expansion. The thing is that this is only an honorable mention because Kingsburg's 2nd edition includes all of the expansion materials in the base game. But the thing is, this is what I hold up as one of the best examples of how to do an expansion well, and that is we've got modularity, we've got asymmetric starting abilities, we've got the ability to change our building style, our building cards, we've got events, all sorts of different stuff, and again, you can mix and match and pick whatever individual things you want. A great example of an expansion, but rendered moot because of the 2nd edition of the game. And so those are all the honorable mentions that I had, so we're going to go right into my number 1. At number 1, I've got On the Brink for Pandemic. Essentially, Pandemic is another great example of a modular expansion where we've got the ability to have a much better scaled difficulty. We've got a new disease that we can add. We have the bioterrorist variant that we can use. We've got new cards, lots of new special abilities that we can use, all sorts of different stuff. It just takes the game to 11 and makes it a lot more replayable, a lot more fun, and like I said, you get a much better scaling difficulty, which is so important, especially for co-op games. It's gotten to the point where I absolutely refuse to play Pandemic, at least this version of Pandemic, not Legacy or any of those things, unless it has On the Brink, because it's just less fun for me, and I don't think it works nearly as well without all of the additions that it includes. So with that, Pandemic On the Brink is my number 1. Well, everybody, that's it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 10 favorite expansions. And like I said, these are all expansions that have something modular, something mechanical, fix a flaw in the base game, something along those lines, or some mixture of all of those things. I really like to have expansions that do something for the game rather than simply add more and more stuff, the way that we're seeing with Munchkin and Smash Up and all those kinds of things, where it's just more of the same coming up and up and up and up. But with that, you guys know that I love to hear from you. Like I mentioned before, please let me know what your favorite expansions are in the comments below, or if you don't like expansions, are there games that you enjoy with or without? Please let me know anything and everything, because you guys know I love to hear it all. But that said, if you guys haven't done so already, please take a look at all my various social media pages, as well as my Patreon page. On all of those, you can interact with myself and my channel in a whole bunch of really cool ways. But with that, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.